Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. This is Success with Srini.
Welcome back to Success with Srini. Happy Sunday morning to you. Today on the podcast, I want to take a few moments and talk about how to create more balance in your life. And I want to emphasize the word more here, or underline the word more, because there is a lot of literature on how to create balance. And chances are you're already creating balance. So many different ways to create balance, and there's so much of material. In fact, I have done several podcast episodes talking about how to create balance. There is one challenge with balance. Balance is balance. There are chances you could lose. And we call it balance because there are so many things you have to juggle. So in order to not to lose balance, you got to create more balance. It's weird how this works, but you get the humor in this. Hopefully I'm conveying it. So we now know that there are three specific things that you have to do to create more balance in life, because these are the three areas where there is risk. So if any of these three areas are challenged, you may lose existing balance of anything that you have got going. But if you kind of address these three, you can create more balance. So let's talk about these three. The first and the foremost, these are called the 3 R's. 3 R's. The first one is response. Your response to people, alive objects, like your response to humans, animals, and things like that, and your response to non-alive things. For example, your car, your house, the objects that you handle, all of that. How do you respond to people? How do you respond to animals or things that have life in them? And how do you respond to non-living objects? See, when you respond to people nicely, the chances are they'll be nice to you. You minimize the possibilities of anger, rejection, resentment, frustration, and all that, because it's all there in the communication. The way you respond to them or the way you initiate anything defines your success. So when you take out emotional drama and you're precise in your communication, then life becomes easy. So that is why this is a significant pillar in creating balance in life. Then comes objects, the way you deal with things around. And I've seen people who tell me all the time they forget things, they drop things, they break things. If you become a little bit cautious and a little bit aware the way you handle things, your life will have balance. Your life will become easy, leading to creating more balance. Then the second R is relationships. Well, relationships as a category is pretty big, and I don't want to get into many things on this episode. But within relationships, there is one specific thing that is known to create more balance, which is you defining boundaries and you letting people know how they step come inside that boundary, or stay outside of that boundary. So when we talk about boundaries, there are a few things. There are physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, intellectual boundaries, material boundaries, time boundaries. And there are more. Now, the reason why you have to define boundaries and operate is because you want to be safe and you want to be respected. So when you are safe and you are respected, the chances are you will also make other people in that relationship safe, and you will also give respect. If somebody violates the boundaries, that means now you are becoming unsafe, and the chances are they're not respecting you, and you may not respect them either. So one example, I'm going to talk about two specific things here. Let's talk about time boundaries. If you have a schedule that you're operating and you have an agenda for the day that you need to accomplish, if somebody is stepping into your time and they are taking away your time, you got to be very careful. You need to convey saying, I'm busy, I need to go to another meeting and I need to deal with a few things, so that you don't feel bad at the end of the day that you could not accomplish a few things that you planned for the day because somebody stepped in and you are now holding a grudge against them. The fault lies with you if you don't convey that message. You have a meeting, you say, hey, I have 20 minutes, let's talk, and I have another meeting coming up, I need to go. So you need to define, that's the boundary. These days, I'm more worried about my intellectual boundaries. The kind of conversations I have with the kind of people, it matters a lot to me. The discussions matter a lot to me. There is a certain level of intellectual equilibrium that I'm trying to create every time I talk to people. And it's important that others are also my friends, my relatives, my family. They're also at the same level. So if I do not get that from them, then I withdraw. So I'm creating those boundaries. And in fact, I've been doing that for a long time. But you get the idea. So these are some boundaries that I want you to test. Now, if necessary, say no. Say no. It's okay. And I've been raised in a culture. Growing up, I was trained, or I was raised the right word, was raised to say yes to everything. And I was raised to surrender to everything. And as I started seeing the world, and as my conscious mind started expanding, I started to realize that the more I say yes, the more I suffer. So now I say no. And I say no with compassion, with respect, and with concern. When I say no, I'm not insulting anyone, and I'm not rude, I'm not angry, but I say no with compassion, love, care, concern, all that. And if you want to learn how to say no, I have spoken about a resource, an incredible book that changed my understanding. And the book is called The Power of a Positive No by William Ury. Get this book, read this book. I read this book about 15 years ago, or 12 years ago. In fact, 15 years ago when it came out, I believe, 2005, 2006. Incredible book. So I started to understand the dynamics. The third part, the third R in our discussion is a routine. What we now know is people who have routines, people who have a morning routine, early morning routine, a morning routine, an afternoon routine, evening routine, and a night routine. And primarily, there are two routines that I talk about a lot on this podcast, which is the early morning routine and the night routine. So you have routines that you follow. You have tasks, you have goals, you have activities that you do as per those routines. Your life becomes predictable and your life becomes more productive. And along the way, you create more balance. There is more to routines, and I've done multiple podcasts here, but you get the idea. So, your response to the world, to living beings and non-living beings, your relationships, and specifically within relationships, the boundaries that you set, physical, emotional, intellectual, material, time, all that, and then the routines that you follow. These three things, if you are careful about, these three things, when they're secured and when they're followed, when they're implemented, they will create the balance or the more balance that you are seeking. And the reason why you should strive to have more balance is because just having balance is not enough. Balance means, imagine somebody walking with a bamboo stake trying to balance on a piece of rope. Now, anything can go wrong. You might have seen this in a circus. If anything goes wrong with the wind or with concentration, with focus, the chances are that individual will fall or will not have a success with the routine, right? With crossing over the rope or whatever. So balance is always a delicate thing. Balance will always be, balance itself is always disposed towards imbalance. So we have to do a lot to keep everything in balance, and we have to juggle a lot. Okay, that's all for now on today's podcast. Hopefully this is helpful. Do me a favor, you like these ideas, these concepts. If this is helpful, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can write a comment, you can like and subscribe to the video. If you're listening to this on a podcasting app, then there is a place there to write a review and rate the podcast. Do all of that. and have a wonderful Sunday. And I will talk to you as early as tomorrow, start of the week. Okay, you take care. Bye now.